You want to take better photos than most photographers out there? And stop thinking about gear and start thinking like a photographer. Because photography is mostly mindset, and even a 1% shift in your mindset can affect 99% of your photography. Today, I'm going to give you 10 tips that will instantly improve your photography and put you in the right mindset so that you can grow as a photographer. And hint, none of them will require you to buy any new gear or spend any extra money. My first tip for you will be to build your photographs around the hero. It is more often than not that every great image has a main character in it, and the rest of the photograph is built around that character. If your photograph doesn't have that, the photograph can be perceived as unclear or just visual noise. So build your photographs with heroes in mind. If you're photographing a single subject, it's kind of self-explanatory who the main hero is. But when you're photographing a group of people or subject, it is a very good idea to prioritize and make one of them the hero of your frame. Give the viewer something to anchor to and build the rest of the frame around it. That will bring clarity, that will bring structure, and it will make the image easier to understand. Now, I'm not saying to do it every time. Sometimes you want everyone to have equal importance, or a certain group in the photo should have more attention than the others. But have the hero concept in mind when you're raising your lens and you're about to take a shot. That will help you tremendously. Think Avengers. A poster of Avengers will usually not have a hero because they don't want to prioritize one character over another. But if you think of a poster of the Black Panther, Batman, or Captain America, all this will have the main hero well prioritized and the rest will be supporting actors, usually simply smaller in the poster. I have a longer video about composing with heroes in mind. It's somewhere here, and I will link it also in the video description as well. My second tip to you will be to learn and know when to simplify and when to go complex with a scene. Sometimes less is more, one subject, one message, but other times complexity helps telling a deeper story where context is king. The trick is knowing when to use which. As street photographers, many of us out of habit or autopilot will just go for complexity in mind. We all the time try to bring more layers, more lines, more objects, and more context. But it can get tiring and making your portfolio look like an overwhelming maze. On the other hand, if your work is a collection of single objects with very little context around, you might feel that your work is kind of boring. So you need to find that middle ground, little bit from both worlds, little bit of complexity and little bit of simplicity. So the first step would be to recognize in which team are you, and accordingly to that, try and introduce some changes to the way you're shooting. You can try and do this. If you recognize that your work mostly is about simplicity, every time you take a shot you are happy with, look around and think, what else could I include in that image to give more context? That works the other way around. When you have done with your complex shot, look at the scene and see how could you potentially simplify it and make it easier to the viewer to understand. Now, the bare truth here is that there is no better way. You can create great work working both ways. And here are two examples. The first image is of Joseph Kudelka. He's a Magnum photographer that I like very much, and it's a pretty simple image of this man and a huge boat. It has two objects with simple forms, and yet it feels complete. I don't see anything missing there in terms of storytelling. And this is the second image from Bruce Gilden and his Tahiti book. You have seen this image in some of my other videos, and it's an image I like a lot. I think I find it to be a masterpiece of complexity, even if it looks like it has been shot from the hit, which I usually less like. But the image reads as very intentional. It has clear heroes, but also leaves you with a lot of question introduced by its context. So both are great images, each in their own way. It also shows you that you can work both ways. Now, if you take the work of both of these photographers through their entire career, they're mostly used the absolute opposite. There was always strong aesthetic feeling in Kudelka's work, I admit it. Even the complex images looked kind of simplified. But he was mostly creating images with context and a lot of elements. And Bruce Gilden, on the other hand, shifted mostly towards simplicity. He is famous for his intense flash street photography of people, mostly a single object shot. So let's try summarize that. Find your natural tendency and introduce some simple challenges to your already existing shooting style. If you feel that you don't have a shooting style yet, you can consider to simplify if the scene looks messy and unreadable. And if it's too clean, you can try push for complexity and context. My third tip is, and it kind of echoes through a lot of my videos, is to ask you to stop shooting everything wide open. I've heard these statements of, I've got a f1.2 lens and I've paid a lot of money for it. so I will just shoot wide open all the time. But that is ridiculous. Yeah, shallow depth of field looks cool, and some of your non-photographer friends will praise you for that beautiful blur. But if everything you shoot is f1.2, you're just hiding the background, you're hiding the context, and you're avoiding real composition. Try shooting at f5.6 or f8. The best is if you try and push it up to f11. Let everything in the frame exist. Let it all be sharp and actually compose your image. Because shooting at f1.2, you're not really composing. I will not stay on that subject for too long because there is a video that speaks in depth exactly about this issue. It is here, and I will also add the video in the description. So if you have that habit of shooting with open aperture, I strongly recommend you to watch it. It might change the way you see photography in general. My fourth tip to you is to watch your background. So here's one big truth. Amateurs usually shoot subjects. Photographers with experience connect these subjects with the environment. And there are various reasons for that, but mostly it's because amateurs don't have the habit to see the scene as a whole, and they get overwhelmed when something exciting is happening in front of them. So they forget everything and just see the subject. And later on, when you're back home, you look at the photographs, the result is that street sign behind their head. Ouch. That distracting light source. Ouch. That guy with the yellow vest. Another ouch. You need to learn and see these things that ruin your photographs before you click on your shutter button. In worst case scenario, immediately after. But definitely not back home in front of your computer when you can do nothing and your only option is Photoshop object removal. So yes, learn to look beyond your subject. Examine the surroundings. Develop that habit of looking at your subject, but also throw a look behind and look at everything that is there and take it in account when you're composing. Always have this question to ask yourself. Is the background helping or hurting the photo? Are the elements that get introduced in the background are essential or not? And when you have the answer, you will know exactly what to include in it. And if you feel that some of the things that I'm saying here are new to you, you might consider checking my composition classes. I touch on many more subjects in this, and you can find more information about them in the description of the video. But let's go number 5. Use geometry and subframing. Photography is a flat medium. Our eyes see the world in 3 dimensions. We have these perceptions of depth that our camera just don't. So we use geometry around us to try and create that 3-dimensional feeling in our photographs. When you hear someone saying, "This image feels flat," it doesn't always refer to lighting. It more often refers to the geometrical structure of the image, and that the geometry in that particular image is flattening it. Let me show you some examples. This image is flat. It has some storytelling. The objects are properly separated, but all the elements are in one line, and there is no perception of depth here. This image, on the other hand, has the perception of depth. All the lines and geometrical objects are helping to create that 3-dimensional feeling. You can always use lines, shapes, forms to structure your images and lead the eye to your intended subject. A very easy way to create a 3-dimensional feeling and also point the attention to your subject is to use subframing. Things like windows, arches, and doorways will do the job. And these, again, they're just the basic elements. You can really get creative with subframing. So many ways that you haven't thought about that you can use to frame your images. And while I don't have a video about geometry and lines, or that you will have to come to one of my classes, but I do have a video about subframing. I'm listing it in the description as well. Now let's speak about colors. Narrow down your color range. I tend to travel in Asia a lot, and this is a place that colors are exploding from every corner, which can be visually heavy on the viewer. Imagine a complex composition with a lot of elements and many colors. That thing is unreadable. So try to minimize the amount of colors in your frame. It's another simplification, if you want to call it like that. We can mostly doing by reframing and just taking the colors that we don't want to be in the frame out. Because when you have too many colors, they compete for our attention. If you want your photographs to feel intentional, control that color, control the amount of different colors that you have in your scene. And also learn a bit about color theory. Don't overcomplicate it, but learn how to create color harmony, images that feel harmonious, and learn how to work with color contrast and create these punchy, colorful images. Learn about cold colors, learn about warm colors, or try working with just one dominant colors that will set the mood for the whole scene. But most important is do not overdo the amount of colors in a photograph. Just use 2, maximum 3. The second important thing around color is don't overdo it in editing. There is this tendency to oversaturate images when you edit just to make them pop, you know? It is important to notice that when you're adding contrast, it also usually affects the colors. So if you're raising your contrast in your editing, you might want to desaturate a bit to balance the colors. And my seventh tip for you is around light. Learn to expose for the scene. So this one is so important. I can't even emphasize how important it is. Your camera light metering system doesn't know what you want the photo to look like or to feel like. It has no idea about the content and how you want to present it. So it simply measures the light depending on the parameters that you have set. But what if you photograph a dark subject? The camera doesn't know that you're photographing a dark subject. It simply sees that it's dark and recommends you to raise your exposure. Or even worse, does it if you're in some kind of more automatic mode. Similarly, with bright background, the camera will usually make you expose in a such way that that background will become gray. And I want it white. So the camera exposure metering very often gives you a result that you don't want. And you have to learn to expose for what matters, to what matters to you, regardless to what your camera is saying to you. You can use the exposure meter as some sort of a guideline, but do not be controlled by the exposure value set there. You need to learn how to control light in your camera in a way that suits you. And again, I will send you to my video library to a video that speaks in depth exactly about that, about dynamic range and about exposure, down in the video description. My eighth tip for you is pure mindset. Minimize your gear set. Now, this one is hard for many of you guys, but notice the more the gear you have, the more decisions you have to make, and the more distracted are you, and the more you are distracted from the creative process. I usually plan the gear for the shooting day. It is mostly one camera, one lens, and no distractions. That allows me to stay focused on the lens abilities. If I'm using a wide lens, I will focus on wider scenes. If I'm using a prime 85mm lens, I will mostly focus on tight scenes and portraits. The main idea is just to minimize the distractions of the thought about, I need to change my lens. I have the wrong lens on the camera, right? And then 15 minutes after changing your lens, you're seeing something else and you were like, oh, I need to change my camera lens again. And this just process keeps repeating. You're changing lenses and you're distracted from what's in front of you. Now, if you're planning to spend early morning shooting outside when it's still relatively dark, you might consider a two lenses kit. One for the time of the day when the light is low for the early morning hours and one for the rest. So I'm not saying stick to one camera, one lens all the time, but just have all planned and minimize as much as you can. And if you see that you have this worm-like thought drilling into your mind that you need to change your lens, probably next time just go out with one lens only. That will illuminate that issue and you will be focused on the process itself. And more than that, that limitation forces creativity. At the moment you don't have the tool to solve your problem, you use your mind to solve it creatively. You will stop thinking about what lens to use and start thinking about how to use the lens that you have on your camera right now. My ninth tip is also mindset. Remove mental distractions. I am all about removing mental obstacles during the shooting process. I believe that deep immersion in photography is like meditation. At first, you have a lot of random thoughts coming to your mind, but as longer you stay with your focus on the meditation object, which in your case is photography, the most clarity you get and the more focused you are on the process. I have noticed that real photography starts after 1, sometimes 2 hours on the street. It depends on what kind of mind you came to the street with. And so leave home everything that can distract you. All your daily problems, all the things that you need to do in the future, everything that bothered you from the past. Put your phone in flight mode and far out of your reach. Say your chatty friend goodbye and continue shooting alone on the street. That way you will be focused. Focused on the street, focused on the people there, focused on the light, focused on the color, and be more attentive to moments. Simply just be there. And after an hour or so, some magic will start happening. You will start seeing more, perceiving more, anticipating more, and mostly really feeling the process. And the last one is learn your bloody camera. Yes, I said it. Learn your bloody camera. This is another distraction. If you find yourself stopping and trying to figure out your next setting, you're not there. It should be like riding a bicycle to you. You pedal, you switch the gears, you keep your balance, you navigate your direction without putting extra thought in it. You just do it. And it's exactly how it should be with your camera. If you feel overwhelmed because of the vast features that the camera manufacturers put in your cameras, don't worry, because what you really need to perfect are just four things. The first one is to control light, basically to learn how to expose. The second one is to understand your focusing mechanism, so you don't miss focus. The third one is understanding depth of field and how your aperture value affects it. And the last one is to learn to control your shutter speed in ways to freeze moments or introduce motion blur. That's it. All the rest is noise. So get that strong determination to learn your camera. It is less complicated than you think. It really slows you down and distracts you from the flow. It is very rewarding getting the machine out of the shooting process. It just gets out of the way, it's freedom. Whatever your camera model is, open YouTube, search for that camera model, and add the word focusing, exposure, aperture, and you will most likely have someone very nice one who covered all these settings for you. You will do it for 2-3 days and you will figure out 80% of your camera. You will repeat it after 2 weeks and you will know your camera. And now look, nothing that I said here in this video is magic or it's a secret, but most people simply don't do it because it takes a little bit more effort, a little bit more practice, a little bit more patience, and paying attention to things rather than just clicking. But if you apply even a few of these, the trajectory of your photography will change. You will be ahead of most photographers out there. And if you like this video, leave me a like and let me know in the comments which of these tips you are already using or which one you are planning to try next. And if you want to go deeper into composition, lighting, and how to capture interesting and powerful images, check out my links below. I'll see you next time. Happy shooting!